Hello and welcome to the Two Dyspraxics, episode 2. I am Matthew Munson.
And I'm Barbara Neill.
And today we're going... Actually, Barbara, thinking about, before we go on to that, we should have some sort of theme tune at the start of this.
Brilliant idea.
What though?
Are you musical? Can you play anything?
Triangle.
I'll ask Jim.
Yeah, that's a good idea actually. Jim is Barbara's second son. Second of 3 sons. And he's quite musical, isn't he, your boy?
He's very musical.
Actually, no, he is very musical.
Yeah,
some good music. Yeah, he's not blessed with dyspraxia though, bless him.
No, he is dyslexic though, so he is a dys.
So he's near enough. He's half. He's half as good as us because he's on the dys spectrum.
But a much better musician than both of us put together.
Yeah, totally. Some of his music is on our Facebook page actually, Two Dyspraxics Facebook page. So do check out some of his music. What was that song?
Yeah, please. Sometimes.
Sometimes. He's recorded one recently, put it on SoundCloud, and got about 600 hits in 3 days or something, didn't he? Very talented. Very talented. We're not Jim's publicists at all.
Not all the time.
No. We should be the two Jims. Have like t-shirts or something. Anyway, that's not what we're here to do. What we're talking about. We are talking about school days today.
Yes.
Controversial one.
Yes, absolutely.
Came up from a conversation we were having recently about an experience you had recently, and it kind of led on from there, didn't it?
It did, because I was doing a workshop, and it was in relatively recent years, I suppose about 2 or 3 years ago, and it had nothing. It wasn't anything sort of physical or anything like that. But the woman who was leading the workshop wanted to try and find a way of remembering our names, so she brought up this ball and said, "I'll throw the ball to each person in turn. When you catch the ball, tell me your name." So I was immediately filled with horror because all of those horrible feelings from school days came flooding back.
PE and trying to catch and throw and...
Exactly, and it's a nightmare, and it's a nightmare on a regular basis in school as well. But to make matters worse, I did explain to the woman, look, I'm really sorry, I don't like to single myself out if I can avoid it, but I said, I have dyspraxia, so I can't do that, I can't catch the ball. And so she threw it to me. This was after the first time I've missed it, and then she forgot and did it again, and on the third time I said, "Oh, I'm sorry, I just don't do this." But I think the important thing is that as an adult I can afford to be assertive.
Yes.
I'm happy to be assertive and say, "Look, I'm sorry, but I don't do this.
I'm not comfortable with that."
Exactly.
But I think the difficulty is as children, that's something we both agreed on, was as a child you don't know that sometimes you're allowed to actually say, "I can't do that," or could you help me with that in a different format? And certainly as a child, I didn't know that it was okay to kind of voice my anxieties sometimes. You go into a PE lesson, I mean, PE and me didn't mix, because I think my dyspraxia really came out in that, the coordination, the balance, the hand-eye coordination, everything like that, and it was a nightmare. I hated every second of it, except for the fact, and I do remember this, this is before I got diagnosed, I had a phenomenal PE teacher called Mr. Grimes, his name was, and he was my PE teacher for 4 or 5 years, and my lessons were made half bearable by that man as he turned to teach me, and he was so patient. If we did the 400 metres on a track, he would actually he'd make me walk around the track. So if I couldn't run, he'd make me walk around the track and keep me within the white lines, and say, "Matthew, you're veering a bit," or whatever. And actually, he was really good because of that. He didn't know I'd got dyspraxia. He just knew that I couldn't. I just couldn't do it. And he was so patient that although I hated the subject, and he knew I hated the subject, let's be honest, because every parents' evening my parents used to go over and just talk about the weather, because I knew there was no point in, I was never going to do it as a GCSE subject, so but he was so patient, and I think that sometimes half the battle is you've got a teacher who actually says, "Okay, you can't do it like I'm asking everyone else to do it, but if you make some adaptations to it, we can get you doing something," and yes, I used to dread the lesson, but sometimes it was made bearable by a teacher who was actually patient with me, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Makes all the difference, I think, because my PE lessons were just an absolute nightmare, total nightmare.
Yeah.
So I used to do awful things like losing a ball in one part of the lesson, so I'd have to go and spend the rest of the lesson looking for it.
Yeah.
Honestly, I used to put all sorts of dodges.
Actually, sometimes I used to fake an asthma attack.
Did you?
Yeah, well, I am asthmatic genuinely, but I used to fake an asthma attack so I couldn't get off playing football for half an hour.
Yeah, I mean, that was really just avoidance. You know, do anything you possibly can to avoid it.
Think about it, I don't think I ever told my parents that, so that'd be interesting. Sorry, Mum. I'm 31 now, it's fine. We've gone past that. But I suppose that's the thing, isn't it? It's about kind of subjects that are popular and subjects that are not popular. Is that your phone, Barbara, by any chance?
It is my phone. I'm terribly sorry.
That's right. We'll carry on though, because it's a moment.
I know, it's terribly unprofessional.
I can only apologise for one half of Two Dyspraxics there.
I'm not making any apology at all.
No.
So if I apologise for all your misdemeanors, we'll be here all
You should see the last day. It was my Skype going off before, but anyway.
Yeah. Sorry about that interruption, but yeah, we were talking about school days.
It's gone. I've forgotten.
Has it? Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
well, shall we? I mean, I can sort of go on to my favourite subject in school was English.
Oh.
I didn't have a problem with English, apart from the inevitable copying from the blackboard, because we had to always sort of take notes from the blackboard, and that is really, really difficult to do if you have dyspraxia. And reason for that is because you have the visual tracking problems. So first of all, you have to focus what's on the board, and then you have to focus on the paper in front of you, and then there's the memory problem. If you have short-term memory problems, then it's what was that again? You know, so you have to go through the process again.
You're often, I don't know if you found it, but I was often looking at the board 3 or 4 times for the same bit of information.
Absolutely, yes.
And then I'd get embarrassed and frustrated because I'd be sat, if I sat on a table with a few other people, they'd be steaming ahead and be halfway down the page, and I'd still be on the first line.
Yes.
You know,
and add to that, I mean, the physical problems of actually writing, holding the pen, and the fine motor skills are shot very often with dyspraxia.
What's your handwriting like, out of interest?
My handwriting, actually, when I was at school, my handwriting was very neat, but I only used to get a fraction of the work done.
Oh,
nowadays it's just messy.
Yeah. Same with me. I probably could rush it through almost now, and yeah.
But my view is, because I'm quite shocked actually. My youngest son, who's 14, he said, "Well, we still do that. We still have to copy from the board," which I think is archaic.
Yeah.
You know, and if there are undiscovered dyspraxics in the class, which is fairly likely.
Oh yes, entirely possible.
Sort of 30 or however many.
Yeah.
Then they're going through this, suffering this same horror that we used to all those years
in silence, and not knowing that they're allowed to speak up and actually deserve not to get into trouble for it. You know, and just be accepted the fact that okay, we need to do something slightly different for little Johnny because he's not going to write as fast because of his processing issue. We need to do something different for him. Why people still have to copy from a board, perhaps I don't.
It's unbelievable. I can't believe that they're still doing that, really. And but also, I found that the most difficult thing is you go through this awful process where you're trying to keep up with everybody else and failing miserably. So I was always described as slow, which I hated. And then you're told off for it, so you go through all that effort, all that extra effort that goes into doing what everybody else is doing and then getting into trouble for it.
I always used to get cross at that because I used to think I'm probably doing more work than all my classmates, and yet I'm being told off sometimes. I was a fairly good at 2 shoes at school, but at the same point, I got told off being slow and not getting the work done on time, and my homework, I'd have to spend longer on my homework.
Exactly.
When I remembered my homework, I always remember one occasion, a friend had come round after school and I realised I hadn't got my homework done, so my friend had to wait while my mum helped me with my homework to get it done, because I'd completely forgotten this piece of maths homework had to be done for literally the next morning, and because my mum was just like, oh come on, you need to remember, and of course she would do, because at that time we didn't know this was, I don't know, early 90s, so I was just in secondary school, and because we didn't know what dyspraxia was back then, it wasn't diagnosed, it wasn't talked about as much as it is now, but it's still frustrating because it's not understood in schools or in the workplace as much as it should be.
I mean, it's something which I have a problem with really is this emphasis on you must learn to do decent handwriting. Why? You really don't. Well, I mean, my personal view is that you just don't need it, because if we have laptops, and I'd be snookered without mine actually.
Oh yeah, same here.
Because it's so liberating, it's a real life changer, and so if we can use computers, and that's, if you do any bulk writing, that's how you tend to do it.
Well, I'm always in awe of kind of writers kind of pre-1970s, because obviously they would have to have pretty much done their writing on either a very archaic word processor or longhand, pretty much.
Typewriter.
Or typewriter, thank you.
That's an archaic word
I
processor.
suppose it is, yeah. Well, my dad used to work for a journalist, so he used to use a typewriter. But the thought for me of having to write longhand, something from my first book, which you would be impressed I haven't mentioned yet. This is the first time I mentioned my books so far in this episode. 90,000 words or something like that. To write 90,000 words longhand,
by hand,
but you know, I wouldn't have even started. I wouldn't have even bothered starting writing. To be honest, because I had a laptop that my parents bought me at the time, that I was able to write.
I think also, I mean, I know that some children, if they are, or some students, I'm sorry, you know, this isn't just directed at children, because as we know, adults have dyspraxia too. And okay, so some students, be they 5 or be they 50, because they could be a mature student, although they can have access to laptops if it's identified that they need some help or some support in some way, but outside of school, outside of college, you still use laptops all the time for just about everything. It's not just the
classroom,
not
is it?
Not at all, no. And so therefore I cannot see why it's so important to learn to write by hand. So why go to lots of, I mean, if you can sign your name, you need to be able to sign your name.
Yeah.
I mean, just a bit of basic handwriting is fine. My view is that that's all you need, because we live in a computer age.
Especially, I mean, the generation that's kind of like Richard, your son's generation is 14. I don't really see that much emphasis should be put on handwriting.
No.
For that reason, because I bet he's probably so at home with the computer, probably far more than we were at school.
Yeah.
You know, I'm probably only a generation older than Richard, but you know, he's probably so au fait with it that is his handwriting in a way, because he can just it's his stuff.
So that's something that does hack me off. The fact that people are still expected to copy notes down when it's such a difficult thing to do, and also this emphasis put on learning to write by hand when, frankly, it really isn't that necessary.
Yeah. And it causes a lot of extra effort for dyspraxic.
Yeah, and stress.
And stress for dyspraxic children. Absolutely. And the other thing I do want to mention quickly, I'm conscious of time, for us, is about kind of the very physical activities. For me, it was like CDT. What was woodwork is now craft design technology. Or an art. In my head, I could see what I wanted to create. When I held the finished product in my hand, I would think, what the hell is this? And even I couldn't work out half the time. And I was the one that created this thing in woodwork or metalwork or the art classroom or something like that. I had no ability between my brain and the nerve that came down my shoulder into my arm and out into my hand. No, I couldn't do it.
I think that probably fairly well typifies dyspraxia, or the problems of dyspraxia, because it's all in there, no problem. You know, it's all in your head, but it's getting it from here to there in whatever form it needs to be in is incredibly difficult.
And it's kind of things like that I can understand how dyspraxic children, or dyspraxic learners, can get frustrated, because that's how I used to feel. I used to look at this end product, and I used to look at my friends' products, which were as they should have been. I used to think, why isn't mine like that? What's wrong with me? And you know, you almost used to think that, because mine's different than that. And then you grow up and you think, actually, nothing's wrong with me. I just learn differently, and actually, I've got different skills, so it's fine to be different. But because when you're at school, you don't realise that it's okay to be different, because the pressure to conform
absolutely
it is so great, you know. And it's having the confidence, I think, isn't it, to be able to say,
definitely,
I'm different. It's fine that I'm different, and there's no shame in that. You know.
Certainly, that's something I find is coming with age. You know, I care less and less what people think of me the older I get.
Yeah, same here.
Which is very liberating.
It's a shame that kind of ethos. Perhaps in some schools, I think it is in some schools, but I think somehow it's getting it communicated to the children. I don't know how to do that. That's for experts far greater than us, I guess. But it's difficult to actually communicate.
Well, I think one of the most important things is to ask them. You know, if you have a dyspraxic learner who's struggling, ask them. You know, how can you be helped? And then if they don't know how they can be helped, because that can be quite tricky. You know, you've got a problem, but you don't know quite how to resolve it. And,
I have that now as an adult.
So do I.
Yeah.
like timekeeping, for example. How long's that been?
Yeah. We're up to nearly 15 minutes, by the way, so we better start winding up in a minute.
I think we should. Yeah, I think we should start winding up. But school days, I can, just to sum up my feeling about school days is it just fills me with horror when I think about it.
Absolutely. Same here. It was a time that was useful. But would I go back? No, not a hope in hell.
I definitely wouldn't. After that experience with throwing the ball, another experience I had where I was in a course where I was expected to make notes while there was video playing. I just couldn't do it. I came so close to just throwing my pen down and flouncing out in a strop.
But as an adult, you know that you can do that. You have permission. You always give yourself permission to feel okay about that. As a child as a young person, covers a multitude of ages. You don't know that it's okay to sometimes say, look, I can't do it like that. I need some support. Yeah, I need some support to change how I'm doing this to be made to feel equal.
Yeah, and as far as note taking is concerned, if you're in a course type situation, something I do and think nothing of it now is to ask for handouts, preferably in advance.
Yeah.
Because then you have time to look at it, digest it.
That's a really good idea. Yeah.
It's much easier than taking notes.
I must admit, if I go to a course, I rarely take notes now.
No, I
just
don't. But I do ask for handouts.
Tip of the day: ask for handouts and notes. That's a really good. At work, children ask for handouts.
And adults. And
adults.
No, that's not adults. Children ask for adults. It's adults ask for.
Adults ask for adults. Children ask for children, or adults ask for.
No, I think children. You've got a bit mixed
up. I've got myself confused there.
I think we should wrap this up.
Thank you for watching today. I hope it's been of interest. It would be interesting to get some feedback on this. What were your school days like? Perhaps we can do a follow-up at some point.
I'm sure it's a very wide subject because I'm quite sure that we must all have some horror stories from school. Definitely. And after school, come to that.
Yes, that's another vlog about adult learning might be a good one to do. That's a discussion outside of the vlog, but thank you for watching, and we'll speak to you again soon.
Bye.